Touch screens, electronic records, selfie sticks, and many other innovations may seem new, but in reality, most of these inventions existed before or were semi-successful products that didn't enter mass production, or they were manufactured and discontinued due to poor sales. Let's talk about 10 inventions older than you might imagine in 2007, before the release of the first fully touchscreen phone, when people thought it was a completely new thing. However, this wasn't accurate. LG introduced the LG Prada with a full touchscreen before the iPhone, but even that wasn't the first. The first touchscreen phone was the IBM Simon, released in 1992. However, touchscreen technology traces back to the IBM Simon, and a lot earlier. The first touch-sensitive device was a tablet developed by E.A. Johnson in 1965. In the early 70s, Dr. G. Samuel Hurst invented the first capacitive touchscreen. In 1971, Sam Hurst developed the first touchscreen using capacitive touch technology. In 1985, HP developed the first computer with a touchscreen, called the HP 150. In 1993, Apple attempted its first touch device with the Newton Personal Digital Assistant, but it failed due to poor sales. The first selfie stick concept predates mobile phones by a significant margin. The image shows two individuals using a selfie stick in 1925. And yet, in 1980, Japanese photographer Hiroshi Ueda invented the selfie stick to take pictures of himself and his wife during their trip to Europe. Sometimes, early versions of modern innovations existed long before their widespread adoption or recognition. So, this innovation was pioneered by Han Lik, a Chinese pharmacist who dreamed of drowning in a cloud of smoke, inspired by his father's death due to lung cancer caused by smoking. However, Han Lik wasn't the first person to invent the electronic cigarette. In 1963, Herbert A. Gilbert created the first device capable of delivering flavored air without nicotine, and the original Gilbert version was nicotine-free. He later designed a prototype that used a battery to generate heat and employed various flavors to simulate smoke. He pitched his invention to numerous pharmaceutical and tobacco companies, but they all rejected the idea. Self-driving cars have become popular recently, with Google's cars being the most famous. Google's cars have driven 3 million kilometers over 6 years and have been involved in 14 minor accidents, 11 of which were caused by other drivers. However, the technology isn't new to Leonardo da Vinci's time. In 1958, General Motors developed an autonomous car that relied on a guidance system sent by a wire embedded in the road. Despite the car moving without a driver, it depended on the wired guidance, leading to a failed experiment. However, the first true self-driving car, known as an autonomous vehicle, was developed by Japanese engineer Tsugawa and his team at Tsugawa Kubo Engineering Laboratory. Yet, the spiritual father of the technology is considered to be German engineer Ernst Dickmanns, who developed the Waymoors in 1987. It could travel over 90 kilometers per hour for 20 kilometers, and 7 years later, Dickmanns and his team developed the VAMP, which could interpret traffic signals, locate itself in free-flowing traffic, and identify adjacent vehicles. Then, a year later, another car capable of traveling from Germany to Denmark at speeds of up to 180 kilometers per hour, with human control accounting for only 5% of the journey. The journey traces back the invention of drones or unmanned aerial vehicles to 1916, when English inventor Archibald Lowe designed a motor or drone. Using radio waves, the drone was developed as a response to the German Zeppelin threat and was employed in some ground attacks during World War I. Constructed from wood and sheet metal with wings resembling those of another aircraft, the product failed because the engine noise interfered with the radio waves used for control. In 1916, the Subway Aircraft Company attempted to create a drone by placing radio equipment in the tail to avoid interference with transmission, but the product only caused incidents on the ground and didn't get another chance. In 1917, again at the insistence of military leaders, but it caused an incident shortly after its launch. The present leaders were doomed to wear roller skates or wheel skates that closely resembled patronage, except for the much larger wheel size, which could reach the size of a wheel rim. Recently, Sharid Skates Company announced a new product called Sharid Skate Wheels, and according to the company's claims, the product is revolutionary. Revolutionary? Not really. Skate wheels were invented in 1870 when Scientific American published Thomas Loader's invention called Pitts Pats, with a wheel diameter of only 15 centimeters. Loaders claimed that anyone, regardless of their physical characteristics, could use the wheels. Loaders himself was a large man with heavy weight, claiming he could use them continuously for 2 hours without getting tired. In 1923, a second version of the wheel emerged, incorporating a mobile boot instead of a shoe, skates being the addition of a wheel at the back. Called in 2012, Google introduced its product, Google Glass, a computer worn like glasses. Anyone wearing the glasses could walk down the street and keep track of their appointments, make video calls, or even record videos and upload them to the internet without using their hands. Google Glass was hailed as new and revolutionary, but it's certainly not the first wearable computer. The first wearable computer was created by Ed Thorpe and Claude Shannon in 1961, and in 1981, Ivan Sutherland created the first wearable display. As the first design of any product currently available, in 1980, Steve Mann designed the WearComp, a pair of glasses that communicated with other computers wirelessly. He continued to develop the product until 1999, eventually creating a product very similar to Google Glass. A few years ago, the flying wheel known as the Parabello emerged. It consists of a wheel with a large parachute attached to it, capable of reaching speeds of 25 kilometers per hour on the ground and 40 kilometers per hour in the air, and it can ascend to heights of 1,200 meters. The best part is that you don't need a pilot's license to operate it. It became famous as the first flying wheel, but we must address that it's not the first one. The first flying wheel was in 1961 when Derek Piggott from Southampton University flew a wheel with a body shaped like an airplane. Derek used a hill slope for takeoff, and it actually lifted off the ground 8 out of 10 meters for a distance of 64 meters. Although the flight was slow and short, it doesn't change the fact that it was the first flying wheel. In 2010, Martin Aircraft Company Jetpack, earning a place on the list of the top 50 inventions of 2010 by Time magazine. Despite its development starting in 1981, the first jetpack flew in 1958 and was designed by Wendell Moore, a researcher at Bell Aircraft Laboratories. The initial version by Wendell rose 5 meters above the ground and flew in the air for 3 minutes, capturing the attention of the U.S. Army, who funded the project with $150,000. However, the Army stopped funding due to insufficient height and distance. Later, NASA wanted the innovation as a backup plan for the Apollo 11 mission in case of system failure, but they ultimately backed out. Then came the rotorless helicopter, which operates by sucking in air from the body's cavities and expelling it through openings in the ring. The Dyson fan, dubbed the air multiplier by James Dyson, much like the jetpack. However, similar to the jetpack, it wasn't the first of its kind. The first fan without blades was created in 1981 by a Japanese company called Tokyo Shibara Electronics. Although it was never manufactured, Dyson's initial design resembled it closely. Despite Tokyo Shibara's patent expiring, the office requested significant design differences before approving Dyson's patent. Gail Smith, the head of Dyson's patent department, didn't deny the similarities between the two fans, but stated that the technology inside them was different.